welcome to my channel. With this video, we're going to talk about how to write the chemistry IA for the first assessment in May 2025. So since the chemistry IA format has changed for this year's examination, uh, you must not have a lot of information about how to write your IAs, right? Because all the information available is based on the previous curriculum. So let's talk about the overall format first. Okay, the overall format has changed compared to the previous curriculum. The most standout change is the word count. With the previous curriculum, we just had a page limit. However, with this new curriculum, there's a maximum word count, which is the 3,000 words. It's just like the EE. Okay, now you can only write your chemistry IA up to 3,000 words. And also, you must include the title of the investigation, IB candidate code. IB candidate codes for all group members. It means if you have started your IA in groups, okay, then you must include all your group members' IB candidate code on your IA report, okay, and also total number of words in the report, okay. So you must include all these four or these three information for sure. Okay, and then you must be thinking, okay, then since I have to include this information, I should include a cover page, like just like the EE, right? However, the cover page is not required for the chemistry IA or the contents page. However, I ask you to include a cover page with this three information, okay, just for the clarity issue, right? And however, don't include a content page because there's a word limit. You definitely don't want to waste your words count on the contents page, okay? Then let's talk about the criteria. So this is the previous chemistry IA's criteria, means the previous curriculum, right? With the previous curriculum, there was something called the personal engagement and communication. Now these two are out. They are no longer tested in your IA. However, such something as exploration, analysis, evaluation is still getting tested for your IA. However, they are getting tested in different names and also got separated. So let's talk about now this new criteria actually has four criterions. They are research design, data analysis, and conclusion and evaluation. So four only, right? With the previous curriculum, there was five. And this still makes 24 points as a total points. And each criterion has maximum 6 points. So now it's a 6 even. However, with the previous curriculum, the weight was a little bit different, right? And if you look at the criteria of this new IA, research design and data analysis actually were the points that were tested under the exploration and analysis criterions in the previous curriculum, and they were about 12 points before. But now they're individually getting tested with this new IA criteria, and there's 12 points. However, the interesting is the conclusion and evaluation. So now before conclusion was actually work together with the evaluation, okay, and they were only 6 points. But now conclusion and evaluation are the separate categories, and each of them weighs about 6 points now. So it's total makes total 12 points. So you can see that the conclusion and evaluation sections are now getting weighted more heavier than the previous curriculum. Okay. Okay, then let's talk about the formats of this actual report. So before, I ask you to include a cover page. With this new IA format, since there's no more page limit, you can include a cover page with the required information for this new curriculum, right? Which is the title of the investigation, IB candidate code, and the total number of the word in the report, okay? And also IB candidate codes for all your group members if you started your IA in groups. Okay, I will also include a template in the information section. Okay, so check it out. And for the introduction part, you should use about 300 to 400 words, and you must include the background information and relevance of the investigation. Okay, which includes the necessary information that can aid understanding of the investigation process, like the information about the method of investigation you're using. Also, you must include a rationale behind the methodology design, such as the sampling method justification, means like why you're using that sampling method instead of the other method. Like you have to include your justification there. And also you must include a research question, and then also, if possible, explanation of why the investigation is significant. And you must include, if possible, the hypothesis or expectations based on the scientific principles. Okay, then let's talk about the research question a little bit. Okay, so your research question, some people think that, oh, okay, it's just like a question, like the university have to include a simple question regards your topic, right? But that's not. There's a specific format that IB requires in terms of the research question format. So your research question must include uh, independent variable, dependent variable, specific experimental conditions, and testing method. So when I said just these four things, that sounds like impossible. However, what you need to remember is this formula for writing an IB chemistry IA research question. So your research question should be in the format: how does independent variable affect dependent variable in specific experimental conditions as measured by testing method? That's how your research question should be formatted. I mean, doesn't actually have to follow this format, but this is how you should include all this for information. Like I'm just suggesting. Okay. So example can be: how does the temperature, independent variable, and this is something that you need to remember. You have to include that range of the temperature or the range of the independent variable if you're using different range of the independent variable. Affect the rate of decomposition of the hydrogen peroxide manganese dioxide as a catalyst as measured by the volume of the oxygen gas produced over time. So I have included my independent variable, right? Independent variable, which is the temperature with a specific range, and the dependent variable, which is the rate of the decomposition of the hydrogen peroxide. And also I included the specific experimental condition, which is the magnesium dioxide as catalyst, and the testing method, which is the measure by the volume of the oxygen gas produced over time, right? So this is how you should structure your research question. Then now let's talk about the methodology section. So methodology section is about procedures, right? The safety issues about the what kind of apparatuses or the chemicals you're using, right? Or the what kind of variables you're using. Even though you mentioned your variables in the research question, you should identify them again under the methodology, and then you should use about 600 to 700 words, and you should identify your independent variable, dependent variable, and also the controlled variable. But with the controlled variable, what you need to remember is you need to identify why they're control variable, and then how you're going to control them. Okay, that's two things that you must include along with your control variable. And also you should identify the apparatus, like specific like information about your apparatuses, like whether you're using for the 100 centimeter cube cylinder you're using, uh, or the 300 centimeter cube cylinder you're using, like, and the materials, like what kind of chemicals you're using, right? And also you should include the procedure, and your procedure should include the experimental procedure steps that consider all the factors that can affect the investigation, and the decisions regarding the scope, quantity, and the quality of the measurement. So like preliminary trials. Okay, those are the things that you can include. And then measurement details, bias minimization, how you decrease the bias or the limitation or the errors by standardizing your solution. That's how you minimize your bias, right? And also you should include information about reliability and the validity and the pilot test. Actually, I already mentioned the preliminary trials, right? Those are things that you must include. And also, you must do risk assessment for your investigation procedure, right? You need to think about the safety issues, ethical issues, and the environmental issues, okay? And also, the next thing that you must include is the data collection and processing, okay? With this section, you should use about 600 to 700 words, and you should include the raw data, right? Your qualitative data and the quantitative data using properly annotated table and significant figures. So sometimes a lot of students forget about the qualitative data. Okay. However, you should include them along with your quantitative data. If possible, include pictures, right? And also for the quantitative data, uh, if the tables are better, you must use table, but you must then properly annotate it. Means you should the tables or the pictures or diagrams, they all should have like names and the proper numberings, right? And also with this section, you have to include your calculation. So use proper conventions. You have to present how you're processing your data in a logical sequences, okay? And also please avoid overly complex explanations. And also include the uncertainty analysis, such as like propagation of the errors, right? The percentage uncertainties. Sometimes you forget about this part, right? But you must include your uncertainty analysis in your calculation, okay? And also with the IB, we use a centimeter cube and decimeter cube, right? Use proper conventions. And also, you need to present your process data, okay? And when you do that, use proper subheading, use properly annotated graphs, tables, or use of the units. Also, you need to have your decimal places needs to be consistent, right? And also have to have the significant figures properly calculated, significant figures, right? And then let's talk about the discussion and analysis section. So for this section, you should use about 400 words. You also need to do the trend analysis, aka what does your data shows, right? Uh, Also, what that means is that you have to interpret your experimental results, right? Use the qualitative data to provide context or explanation for your quantitative results. That's what you need to remember for this section. Then let's talk about the conclusion. So your conclusion have to use about 400 words. So you have to, with this section, you have to restate findings by ensuring the conclusion is fully consistent with the analysis, right? And directly answers the research question. Okay, don't forget this part. Like you need to answer your research question. And also you have to ensure that the conclusion is justified through relevant comparison to the accepted scientific context, peer-reviewed or published scientific literature. So when I say like peer-reviewed or the published scientific literature, it means that you have to use a specific examples from the textbooks, course notes, or reputable online sources to contextualize your results and maintain a consistent citation style and ensure all references are traceable and properly detailed in the bibliography section. And lastly, evaluation and improvement section. So with this section, you have to use about 400 to 600 words. You have to identify the weakness and limitation with the explanations. Like, how it impacted investigation, like how the limitation impacted investigation and ways to improve the issues. Okay, sometimes is it easy to consider the weakness and the limitation as the same thing. However, the weakness and the limitations are two totally different things. Okay, so weakness could relate it to issues regarding the control of the variables, right? The precision of the measurements or the variation in the data. But limitation could refer to how the conclusion is limited in scope by the range of the data collected and the confineness of the system or the applicability of the assumptions made. Also, uh, you can think like weakness as the how the system is has set up, right? However, um, the in terms of limitation, you can think like it really depends on how the data is collected, how the data how the data has turned out to be, right? That's the limitation. And that's the reason why the limitation requires an explanation on how it impacted investigation, right? And also you need to talk about how to improve the issues of the weakness and limitation. Okay? And also you need to identify the strengths of the experiments, and you also have to discuss the impact of the uncertainties on the validity or the reliability of the conclusions. And also you have to make a suggestion for the further research, which means the possible extensions of the study. Finally, you have to include your bibliography, aka references, and the appendices, right? You can use the APA or MLA citation style. Okay, if your school says like use APA for everything, use APA. If you're comfortable with the MLA, use MLA. Okay, or if your school says use MLA for everything, use MLA, right? But use the one style consistently. That's what you need to remember. For the appendices, you have to include things such as the large tables and the additional diagrams. Okay, don't include the calculations that are necessary to understand the investigation in the appendices. If the calculations are necessary to understand the investigation, then you must include in the body section. The reason is the references and appendices are not counted toward the word count, right? So that's the reason why I'm saying if the informations are necessary uh, to understand the investigation, then include them in the body. But if they're just additional diagrams or the tables, if you think like your large tables are not really necessary for readers to read to understand the investigation, then just include as the part of the appendices. And that's it for this video. If you have any questions, please leave comments down below, and also like and share the video and then subscribe. Thank you.